I keep joking. I had this amazing fortune again to work in the erstwhile world of big data.
How do you see the overall intermingling of all of these terms right now? AI, GenAI, Agentic AI.
So you have to think of manufacturing in not just like a traditional way, but also think of it as like a buzzing, vibrant place with a lot of action, not just with people, but also with like a lot of automation already in place.
Do you think that there are these concerns around job losses with the emergence of technologies?
Life cycle of different technologies. Right now it's in the peak of inflated expectations.
So, what's the secret sauce, Vignesh?
Today's manufacturing companies are dark.
Hello and welcome to yet another episode of the Simulated Reality Podcast. I am Sandeep Sharma, Senior Director for Research and Advisory at AIM Research. AIM Research is a leading global analyst and advisory firm specializing in analytics, AI, and GCC tech ecosystems. In this episode, we will get to know about an analytics and AI powerhouse from India. This is a company that was founded in 2007 based on the mantra Life's Possible. This is a brand philosophy that actually centers around enabling efficient, scalable realities. This is a company that boasts about 1,600 plus analytics and AI professionals spread across 10 countries. This is one of the fastest growing analytics and AI companies in India and has been featured in Financial Times and Deloitte Technology Top 50 India. Yes, I'm talking about SG Analytics. It is my utmost pleasure and privilege to welcome Mr. Vignesh C.V, who is the SVP and Head of Analytics at SG Analytics. Welcome to the podcast, Vignesh. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Sandeep. It's a pleasure.
Great, thank you. So, Vignesh, your entire career, the bulk of your career has been in analytics and AI. We've actually seen through this journey. Right now, we are looking at the market talking about GenAI, Agentic AI. The market is abuzz with all of these terms. So let me first of all start with your professional journey. I think that will set the context for this podcast. You can actually help us trace the evolution of the overall analytics, AI, GenAI, and Agentic AI journey. Can you tell us a little bit about your professional background?
Sure, my pleasure. Well, let's rewind the clock about 20 years back. When I was still in college, I always thought that, no, I have to be a techno-functional professional, right? So I did my engineering and then my MBA, and I decided to not take the path of going to a typical banking or an FMCG company, and decided to really wait out for techno-functional roles. That's one side of the story. The other side was really about sitting in class, especially operations research class, and thinking this is what I should be doing for the rest of my life. And when you have some clarity and when you think about it, I think most often than not, things happen. And that's how HP happened for me. Okay. So I was picked up from campus in 2006. I moved to Bangalore. HP was setting up a data analytics center of excellence in India. And I was the first batch of campus joinees who joined there. It was also my great fortune to work with really amazing leaders there. And that continued for about close to 6 years. At which point, some of the founding members of the team decided to start a company called Bridge I2I. And I said I should also join that bandwagon because I've worked in a large company, understand a lot of things. But how does it feel to start something, get there? So I went and joined as one of the founding members. I was probably the 7th employee at Bridge I2I. Joined there in 2011 and worked there for about a decade. And really a fantastic journey. And in 2021, we got acquired by Accenture. And at that point, I said, maybe I'm not ready for a large company. So I'll again work in a startup. So I went to a company called NinjaCart. It's India's largest agri-tech platform. And I got this amazing opportunity to work with the founders and set up the analytics team there. So I worked there for about a little over 2 years, 2.5 years or so. And in 2023, the current CEO of SG Analytics also a close confidant, who's worked with me in the past, wanted to see if I could take up the role of leading the analytics practice at SG. And I felt that was a great opportunity. Know the people, the founders are amazing. The company itself had a good energy. So I started there. It's been about 2 years now.
Okay, wonderful. It's been a wonderful journey. In fact, let me mention this to you, Vignesh. I think, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I think HP Center of Analytics, I think that was the incubation hub for a lot of analytics work, a lot of companies way back then.
Yeah, I think when I started, there was mostly GE or Genpact,
Yes.
HP and Dell. These were the primary epicenters of analytics in India, if you will. So I was just very fortunate to be in one of them.
Wonderful. So back then, Vignesh, what was analytics mainly? Whenever people said what analytics, what was analytics back then?
So I keep joking. I had this amazing fortune again to work in the erstwhile world of big data. So we had a telemetry team in HP, and at that time, we used to collect a lot of telemetry data from printers, which helps us understand and analyze like patterns of who's using, how are they using print, and what does it mean for ink consumption, what does it mean for like trends in the market. So we used to collect a lot of data from a bunch of sensors in your printer, if you will. And that was massive data at that time,
Sure.
in 2006. So we used to collect data only for a sample of all the printers that are there in HP's ecosystem. And what we used to do is like really analyze this data. And at that time, I got familiar with a tool called SAS, or statistical analysis software. That was the de facto tool.
Sure.
So we used to do a lot of analysis, regression type modeling, to predict consumer behavior, to forecast, like how much ink usage would happen. So it's a brilliant place to start.
Now that you are at SG Analytics, what exactly is your role? And can you also throw a little bit more information about SG Analytics? What does it do? Can you throw some more information around the analytics and AI services that SG Analytics?
So you started right. You gave a good introduction to the company. We are about a 18-year-old company, and we primarily do like two things, right? So we have a research practice, and that's the core root and foundation of the company. We started off as doing a lot of research work for private equity players, capital market participants, and banking and financial services company. And then about 10 years back, we took this journey into data analytics, which is a second practice, which is what I head. And therefore, in some sense, we are really about our ecosystem is only about data, right? Like either it is data from research or data from first party or third party sources that we are analyzing. We're building data science models or AI models, and really going there. So you can say that we are focused in that space, carved out a niche for ourselves. Probably one of the very few players who are a research plus data offering in this market. A little bit of a differentiator, if you will. But more importantly, I'm sure you know, about 3 months back, we were acquired by a company called Strive. And with that acquisition, we've really supercharged into like AI operationalization as a key pillar. And that's been Strive strategy, and we've been doing a lot of that ourselves, and we found a lot of synergy there. And we can talk more about it, but that's really our core, right? If you will think about it, thinking about what does it take to like really operationalize AI in enterprises.
Sure.
That's the space that we're kind of operating.
Definitely, that's a very interesting topic, and we will talk more about enterprise AI adoption, challenges, and opportunities. For that, would you like to mention the overall details about SG Analytics in terms of size and scale? How big is the company right now?
Yeah, with the Strive acquisition, we're about 20,000 people strong now. We are spread over 25 countries. Our largest operating center is in India, which is about 11,000 people. We have a big center in Philippines, about 6,000 people, and a lot of onshore locations or nearshore locations in Puerto Rico, Nicaragua, USA, Europe, and places like that.
Sure.
a lot of people working in this area is mostly centered around data analytics and AI operationalization. Right? So that's really key for us.
Sure. In terms of your customers, what are the focus industry verticals and geographic areas?
So, like most professional services companies, our predominant customer base is in the Western, loosely coupled like G7 countries.
Yeah,
Right?
true.
A lot of our revenue actually comes from USA, Europe. But interestingly, we are also seeing a lot of traction in India and Southeast Asian markets recently. So maybe in the future, you'd see that revenue kind of shift a little bit. And again, we also work across several industries. Banking, financial services, insurance is our key focus areas. And there, when I say BFSI, it's a loosely coupled word. We have banks, retail banks, wholesale banks. We also work with like capital markets, like stock exchanges. So that's our predominant focus. But we are also big in media, which is the second area that I would say. And more recently, we're also focused on what is called the AAC industry, or the architecture, engineering, and construction industry.
Wonderful. Actually, Vignesh, this actually sets the context for the much wider and in-depth conversation that we want to have about analytics and AI right now. So, okay, so let's start with how do you see the overall intermingling of all of these terms right now? AI, Gen AI, Agentic AI. Do you think that a majority of this is pure hype, or do you think that there is real value substance? Let's start with Agentic AI. What do you think about Agentic AI?
I think about it slightly differently compared to these buzzwords. Right? The reason is some of these are technologies, and technologies enable a fundamental shift in how people view the world. Right? Before I get into like the specific technologies itself, let's think about the world itself. Right?
Sure.
Like about consumer behavior, about what we are as an economy. And to wind the clock about 100 years back, right? Like we would think of ourselves as an agrarian economy, and then we became a industrial economy or a manufacturing economy.
Sure.
And eventually in the 90s, we start becoming an information economy. And the last 10, 20 years, you've called yourself an experience economy. Right? The fundamental shift from all of these is the very core nature of human behavior, which is to remove labor of different kinds.
Sure.
So we didn't want to like spend a lot of time in the field, so we invented tractors. We didn't want to like walk to places or take horses, so we invented cars. So you can think about it all the time, like eventually we have been cutting labor from our own work.
Sure.
And we are basically moving towards what satisfies us from a mental perspective. The reason I said this is because what we are entering now, or in many people's minds already entered, is a new economy. What we can call it as an agentive economy. Right? That is really critical to understand. What that means is labor is not restricted to only physical labor, but also to information, labor. Right? Like what I meant by that is, when you think of labor, you think of it as, okay, I go out in the sun and do some work. But in the 90s and in the early 2000s, we've been doing a different form of labor, which is like, sifting through spreadsheets, doing data analysis, doing a whole bunch of things. That is going to change. And we are going to enter an era where agents are going to do not just physical work, but also a lot of the information processing, information work that you're doing. Right? That is why all these technologies are critical. That is because, again, as humans, we don't want to do a lot of work that is considered either physical labor or mental labor.
So, and in your experience, I think you've rightly pointed about the agentic economy as the next wave from the experience economy. So, in your experience and your work so far with enterprises, have you seen any specific uh, valuable use cases of agentic AI across
Yeah.
industry verticals?
So we've been working on several such use cases. Let me take a simple example, right?
Sure.
Again, I said we are working with a lot of engineering companies. Right? One of the key activities that any engineering company does is bid for projects, right? And this bidding happens through RFPs that are floated either by governments, municipal bodies, different type of organizations who might want to ask you to participate in an engineering activity. Now think about it if you're an engineer, right? You have joined this firm to basically do engineering and not really write RFP responses. Uh, and to win a bid, you probably need your best engineers to come and write that,
Absolutely.
right? So think about the conundrum, right? Like you want like your best engineers to not do engineering work. This is where we kind of partnered with an engineering company and we built a whole set of like co-pilots, if you will, or agents, which can drastically reduce the time that it takes to build an RFP proposal or response. And not just that, we've gone to a point where, because if you're a government, you're submitting, your winning bid is something that's already available. We are trying to take elements from those and figuring out how do we increase the conversion rate of number of RFPs I participate versus how many I win. There's a good example where you're removing or increasing productivity, you're reducing mental labor, and you're also improving conversion. So this is one of the very large programs that we built. Fantastic project. We're already seeing great results. 3 to 4 weeks of engineering time reduced to about 4 hours,
Wonderful.
8 hours.
Wonderful. So I think this is mostly geared towards engineers, sales professionals. This could easily be adapted to a lot of
Yes.
sales professionals as well,
Yes.
across other industry verticals. Are you seeing agentic adoption happening in maybe some other functions like customer service?
Yeah, a lot. See, customer service is probably the first
Low-hanging
part that
fruits.
everybody would talk about, right?
Sure.
Because it is customer service has a particular problem, right? One, uh, it's neither good for the customer nor good for the enterprise in a weird way. Customer wants to get something done. He has to wait in an IVR, get to the agent, talk to him, make him understand, get the response, all of that.
Sure.
Uh, from an organization's perspective, it's cost. It's cost. It's inefficient. It just adds like a lot of friction to like my brand, all of that.
Sure.
So this is where a lot of work and a lot of effort, not just with the SG Analytics, but also across the industry, is going in seeing how do we make this an easier, more friction-free process.
Sure.
And agents are embedded in many parts. Some go as far as like building voice bots that you can talk directly. Some are assistive in nature, which means you are giving information and resolution to your actual human agents to solve the problem quickly, escalate it, send the tickets to the right person so that it can be solved. So the idea is that we'll remove cost, we'll make it more efficient, we'll give a better experience to the customer.
Sure. What about, Vignesh, some specific functions within industry verticals like bfsI? So if you take the example of maybe insurance, are you seeing some kind of uptake in maybe some specific functions within
Insurance, it's a little bit like customer experience,
Okay.
but I'll talk about one major problem in insurance which everybody is like working on. This is claims process automation.
Okay.
Okay. Again, think about it from the benefit of everybody involved here. Today, like any other claim, an insurance claim will always probably have like a 1% fraud.
Sure.
It's natural, bound to happen, right? To prevent that, I have to get 100% of these cases through a very extensive manual review process. Now, for the people who are probably in a hospital waiting for a settlement to happen, it's painstakingly bad experience.
Sure.
From the company's perspective, it is a huge cost. having like 3 or 4 or 5 people come in, look at processes manually, making sure every single item in your claim is actually done right. Um, and in this process, it takes like sometimes weeks, sometimes days, sometimes months to settle a claim. Neither is the company benefiting, nor is the customer benefiting. So this is another good space where there is a mutual synergy between what the customer wants and what the company wants. And therefore, that's a place where a lot of focus is happening. How do I use agents to do one straight through processing, right? Like
Sure.
80% of my cases, no questions asked, just settle the claim. It's like, all kind of rules are available, claim looks
Sure.
perfect. Then, 1% of the claims, 2% of the claims, we go through an extensive process where, we suspect that something's wrong, fishy.
So I'm sure there will be a lot of other use cases in insurance and banking. I was actually speaking to some banking CDOs a couple of weeks back, and they were very excited about Agentic AI, and they mentioned a number of Agentic AI use cases, starting from customer service to different products. They were even talking a lot about using Agentic AI in compliance and risk management. Uh, do you actually see all of this action happening on the ground when you work with maybe some customers in the US or other Western markets as well?
Yes, it is happening quite a lot. Uh, I mean, of course, there are some questions about like, how do we operate it meaningfully in terms of making sure that, nothing goes wrong with the new technology of any kind. And these are natural questions. But beyond that, we are seeing several use cases. Take, for instance, legal compliance, right? Legal compliance is an expensive process, $300, $400 an hour of legal review. Uh, so we are not able to do a good job because of the kind of cost involved, kind of implications involved. So use one of these generative AI models to quickly go through your contract, review it, flag it for potential risks, identify if, let's say you are making a payment during an invoice time, whether your supplier has met contractual obligations. So a whole bunch of new areas that are kind of emerging, and companies are thinking and talking and also doing something about it there.
Let me also hear your views about some other industry verticals like manufacturing or maybe retail. Uh, so generally, manufacturing industry verticals are so basically manufacturing companies are the ones where the adoption of technology is relatively on a slower pace as compared to other industry
That's true.
verticals. Are you seeing some kind of uptake for agentic AI use cases or Gen AI use cases in manufacturing?
Yes, they are a little bit behind the curve in some way. And so is like what I call as an AAC firm. Very similar synergies in that respect. But it is not like they are not doing something about it. They are thinking about it. There are some low-hanging fruits that people are going after. Inventory management is a good example. So you have a lot of data around demand. You have a lot of data about like costs. You have a lot of data about the actual levels of inventory, and you're able to use some of these to like just take quick decisions on what's your production plan, what's your manufacturing going to look like, and so on. Now, the second important factor that you have to realize is that not all manufacturing companies, when people think of manufacturing companies, they think of it as like like a foundry.
Sure.
Right? But today's manufacturing companies are dark, companies in some sense, filled with a lot of robots, having a lot of IoT sensors, collecting data. So you have to think of manufacturing in not just like a traditional way, but also think of it as like like a buzzing, vibrant place with a lot of action, not just with people, but also with like a lot of automation already in place. So with that, this whole generative agentic technology is going to kind of take over a lot of that activity as well.
Okay. And in wherever you've worked, wherever SG Analytics is present, in terms of countries, where do you see maximum adoption of agentic AI? Is it mostly in the US? How does India compare to the US market as compared to agentic?
I don't think that there's such a big difference between US and India. If you ask me from a leadership perspective, there's more interest in the US, but you have to also think that like their workforce is slightly aging, and therefore people are careful about how do we basically help adoption improve. Right? In India, it's the totally opposite side, right? Where people are thinking, should we invest? But at the same time, like you have a workforce which is like on an average 25 years old, and they can just pick up like any new technology in like no time, right? So they don't have an adoption challenge. So there is enough interest in both the places. The challenges are different.
So, talking about challenges, that's a very interesting point, Vignesh. So, do you think that there are these concerns around job losses with the emergence of technologies like GenAI, Agentic AI, that may be hindering adoption in specific countries like India?
It's a tricky question. Okay, I'll give it to you. And it's a question for which a lot of people are trying to get a clear answer. But it's a difficult challenge, right? But like I was in a another podcast with somebody else, and she summarized it very well. We all know that with every technology that comes by, it's actually led to more jobs than less. But most people don't think about what the transition period is going to look like.
Okay.
Right? So I think it has to involve a lot of people, including industry, governments, and educators alike, to think about how do we solve for the next 15, 20 years before which we make a leap into that agentic era, as I call it,
Sure.
where we'll figure out new things to do. But today, if you ask me, the AI is somewhat reasonably good, like a college graduate. So anything that is repetitive, task-oriented, is not very creative, those jobs are definitely under risk. Because we, as humans, like I said, we keep evolving to high-value items.
Sure.
So we will move to more creative, more design, more thinking aspects, which your AI will probably take another 20 years to catch up.
Sure.
But what do we do in that time is a challenge that we all have to solve.
In terms of timeline for mainstreaming of agentic AI, so what do you think? Agentic AI will become mainstream in a, let's say, chunk of industry verticals over the next 3 to 5 years, or are we looking at a time horizon beyond that?
I think this is a transformational shift. Okay, so as we speak, it's quite rampant already, and in the next 3 to 5 years, you will see a huge adoption that will kind of take place, and it kind of like it also follows that that whole Gartner life cycle of like different technologies. Right now, it's in the peak of inflated expectations.
Okay.
Right? So like there'll be some sense of realism that will come in on what it can do, what it cannot do, where it will fail, how do we put guardrails, right? It will go through maybe another few months of the trough of disillusionment, as they call it, where everybody thinks we have to dump it because nothing is working. That's also not true, right? Typically, technologies will go through that and then come to a phase of maturity where everybody is clear what to do, how to do it, like where, and no, that's where we have these conversations with a lot of CEOs and CXOs about the fact that hey, let's be patient, let's make sure that it's a marathon, not like a sprint. So we will think like next 3 years, 4 years, how do we basically build a foundation? How do we build a a set of processes that can help you adopt it in a more massive way than thinking about like really small POCs, pilots, and so on.
Absolutely. In fact, you've appropriately put the statement that currently it is heightened expectations right now for a majority of enterprises. So Vignesh, I would also like to ask you about specific sets of challenges that organizations are facing. Definitely heightened expectations is one of them. So agentic AI use cases are probably solutions looking for problems. Right now, most of the organizations have not yet been able to figure out the right set of use cases. That's one critical challenge that organizations are facing. But apart from that, if you look at, or even if you take a look at traditional AI solutions, what are some of the key challenges that organizations are facing to scale AI? Maybe we can take some learnings for agentic AI in that case.
I would say there are two type of companies, right? Or like two type of thought processes. Like some people look at it like I have a hammer, so therefore I have to find a nail, right? Like
Sure.
so when I talk to these guys, I'm like, guys, like this is not a problem that you should solve. Time out. Like this is not a problem you should solve with generative AI. This is a problem that you should use classical machine learning.
Sure.
So there are some of those guys, right? Because somebody in their management chain or their board said like we have to invest in like generative AI. Right? So therefore there is that anxiety pressure to do something. The other set is like saying, let me wait, let me wait, let me wait. Like we don't know where and when to kind of get started. So the advice that I give to these guys is this, right? Like so one, knowing clearly what use cases is critical. But at the same time, you should not be overwhelmed by an ROI equation today. Because, like any technology, the cost of tokens will almost become exponentially lower and lower as we go.
Okay.
And therefore, like thinking of it as a transactional thing is also not very, very good. Now, there is a balance typically between choosing the right use case, finding out like where the medium term ROI is very good, and there are several use cases, right? Like there are several use cases including personalization, like growth, cost reduction. Today, a lot of processes. That's where the adoption is happening because enough cost is there, enough fatigue is there in terms of how people are doing it, etc. But we're also seeing a lot of like new areas that will kind of come up, which are very interesting.
Sure. And Vignesh, you also talked about the fact that there are certain technology areas which are in transition, and maybe there needs to be some reset for, let's say, even employees, right? So, do you think that right now in the overall market, uh, is the workforce really ready to solve agentic AI, or is the workforce really skilled enough to solve some of these, work on these agentic AI problems?
See, if you ask a guy from a professional services industry, we always feel that nobody is skilled enough, right? Because I mean, obviously, it's we'd like everybody to come out of the box like as a perfect human, right?
Sure.
Uh, but uh, but the market is like really gearing up for it. Right? That's the truth, right? Like, in fact, a lot of companies, including us, we invest a lot of money trying to train the entire organization on AI. A lot of people have enough enthusiasm to take it up, and therefore, like we are seeing some good results. So we embed for all our processes, any kind of process that we run, we are embedding AI in them as as a company who delivers this service to other people, we do it ourselves, and therefore, this workforce is also getting on the job skills to do this.
Sure.
Um, so I think it's a process. We should not be in a rush. We will get results.
Okay, wonderful. So if I have to summarize this, there is definitely a lot of meat, a lot of juice in the overall trend that we see about enterprises talking about agentic AI, adopting agentic AI, but there has to be definitely a sense of realism that needs to be embedded into the entire story.
100%, right? Like it's always a balance, right? See, unfortunately, we all look things in binary, right? Like is it there or not there? But the answer is always somewhere in the middle.
Sure.
Right? What does it take to get there? Is a better question.
Sure. And Vignesh, you have been at the forefront of data analytics as well. And when you look at typical AI or agentic AI projects, one of the core concerns for organizations has been the data foundation. What is your take on that? So, what kind of initiatives do organizations need to take to build stronger foundations?
This is an interesting question because nobody deconstructs data foundations very well. Right?
Okay.
That's a problem. And you touched upon in one of the questions, what are CDOs thinking about? Right?
Sure.
And that's essentially how they're thinking. Right? It doesn't mean that we have a data lake, we have a data warehouse, right? So some of those things most people have. Some people starting to think about it, so they will have it. But AI also introduces something new, something interesting, which is this whole concept of developing ontologies,
Sure.
or like essentially semantic representations of objects that you're storing in a database. Um, let's take an example, right? Like a person who wants to come to an e-commerce store is no longer searching for like give me like a pair of Nike shoes which cost less than 5,000, right? So he's gonna come and ask you like hey what will my friends like, right?
Sure.
Or something like that, right? Like I mean, or that's what is it's in his mind.
Sure.
Right? So how do we make our information organized in a way that we can take a natural language question like that and then convert that to a set of attributes that your search engine can kind of understand, interpret, and give back as a result. And that means that we have to start thinking of data not just as a bunch of tables, but a set of interconnected items with some meaning, context, and knowledge.
Sure.
And which is where I'm saying like people are thinking of creating ontologies, people are creating semantic layers, and these are the places where we are working with CDOs and business intelligence leaders to really supercharge their efforts there.
Sure. So if we just have to look at the opportunities which are there in the analytics and AI space, Vignesh, the opportunities lie across the spectrum, right from building the data foundations to, let's say, typical business analytics kind of workloads or use cases. And then maybe we could apply a set of different approaches, starting from traditional AI ML solutions to GenAI to Agentic AI for a lot of use cases. So the opportunities actually are tremendous. And the opportunities are tremendous maybe in the Western markets, also in APAC and Middle Eastern markets.
Absolutely, absolutely. This space has been exploring
Sure.
last 20 years because, I mean, the way we do anything now is data.
What's the plan for SG Analytics to tap into this potential 3 to 5 years
See,
from now?
the reason why I said like we are looking at AI operationalization, right, is that that's a loaded term. What that means is that eventually we have to move people from uh, goals to outcomes, right? And that's a big effort,
Sure.
right? And that's when like uh, AI will kind of like help you really supercharge your company, right? That in a way. And therefore our core focus is what do we basically do to help companies move to outcomes, which is what I'm calling as operationalization. It's not necessarily only technology. It's not necessarily people. It's a combination of them. But more importantly, when we say we want to move to outcomes, we also want to move to outcomes in an accelerated way. Otherwise, people
Sure.
cannot like keep investing for a long time, or like, time is money, right? So as a conscious strategy, we build a lot of accelerators, which in my mind is only about reducing the time to value for our customers. We have people skilled in AI. We also have like data scientists and engineers who can build AI platforms, AI tools for the enterprise. With these three, plus the functional knowledge that we have,
Sure.
together, the idea is to really help drive outcomes or operationalize, embed AI in the organization.
Okay, so will we see an expansion of your focus into some existing industry verticals like banking, financial services, or is there any other industry vertical which you feel SG Analytics will move into in the next 3 to 5 years?
Next 3 to 5 years is a long time.
Maybe 1 or 2 years?
Yeah. So see, consumer industries are always interesting for us.
Okay.
Retail, CPG, primarily because just a data practitioner's dream, right? Like
Sure.
a lot of data, e-commerce, and places like that. But what we've also been thinking is that there's enough excitement in that space. People doing a lot of things there. There are these niche industries which are coming out.
Okay.
And architecture, engineering, construction. Like about a year back, I don't think they would have thought about AI.
Sure.
So those are spaces that we want to double down, become really good at, get that functional expertise, like really go deep in those spaces.
Okay.
There are, similarly, like there are other industries as well. Like within media, there is like, we have like a part of media, we have publishing, which is a big space. We do a lot of work for publishing, but now we have to like, really transform it using AI. So we have a plenty of opportunities within the spaces that we operate.
Sure.
Right. My focus is always to do more with less.
Sure.
So, like expanding into 5, 6, 10 other industries doesn't help as much as doubling down, making sure that, you are really good at what you do,
Sure.
is equally critical for me.
And SG has been one of the fastest growing analytics and AI firms over the last few years. What kind of growth projections are we looking at, Vignesh, over the next
I think,
12 to
if I
18
if I
months?
say some numbers, like I'll be really taken for a what do I call, for an audit myself.
But we'll maintain the trajectory, growth
Yes,
trajectory.
yes. See, any good company today should, in India, should grow about 25 to 50%. Right?
Okay.
But as a large organization, there are many moving parts.
Sure.
My own practice, I want to double it
Okay.
every year, at least for the next few years.
Okay. Actually, Vignesh, that's fairly interesting because you would have read news reports about certain scare in the market regarding revenue losses, regarding job losses with the advent of advanced AI, agentic AI, GenAI, right? And you would have actually seen some dip in revenue numbers for all the larger IT services firms as well. What's your take on that? So, as a general industry veteran, do you feel that this is the trend that we will see, or this is just a dip right now that we're seeing, and obviously we will bounce back? What is your take on this?
See, I have two views to that, right? And this is where I like being not a very large IT company right now. Okay? Primarily because a lot of IT companies have wedded too long to like a time and material model,
Okay.
right? Uh, the reason I say that is because if you have to, and some companies are doing that right now, right, as they speak, is to cannibalize your own business a little bit, to think about new operating models that can drive more efficiency and give better outcomes to customers.
That is mainly through products and platforms, or
Not
through.
just that, right? Like, just embed technology in your own processes.
Okay.
Right? Today, a software development process is significantly shrunk. It's not like 10 years back, right? You can use generative AI for PRDs. You can use it for database designs. You can use it for testing. You can use it for like a whole range of items.
Sure.
Now, it's a little difficult for a large company to do that because in the short run, it cannibalizes their own business.
Sure.
But this is where I see an opportunity. I see an opportunity because there are many more companies which were not able to afford to spend $1 million on building some software.
Okay.
Now being able to afford and being able to do that because the price point for such technology has drastically gone down. So I think I'm focused on that more than worry about like what's going to happen. Primarily because I'm not such a large software developer, so software a business that I have to worry about like cannibalizing. But my opportunity size is very large. Small companies, even $5 million companies, will have a need for building software now, and they can afford it.
And just as a general industry trend, do you foresee the acceleration of certain delivery and commercial models? For example, the outcome-based model that you're talking about.
Yes, outcome-based is a very interesting model. It's little difficult to imagine, and it's a little more risky for both the customer as well as the service provider. But I think eventually it will move there because it provides certainty, and if you can do it right, it will also provide enough margins for service providers to actually operate in.
Okay.
Because if you can say like to clean a data record it costs like $5, can I bring it down to $1, right?
Sure.
Maybe I can do it at 50 cents. So it gives predictability to and outcomes to customers. It gives enough headroom to introduce technology and make it better. There's incentive for both players.
Let me also hear your views about partnerships and ecosystem, building an ecosystem. You're a services provider, and an ecosystem is actually very important for you. So, what partnerships does SG Analytics have in place right now? What are your plans for the immediate future?
So, so partnerships, I look at it in three, four ways, right? Like the first part is hyperscalers, right? Like
Sure.
your AWS, Amazons of the world,
Sure.
right? Like you need those partnerships for better technical know-how, better customer support that we get when we are implementing projects in our customer base, right? But that's not a big differentiator. Where I am really focused on is to really handpick and cherry pick like really interesting AI startups,
Okay.
players who have like some assets that are something that my customers will benefit out of. So having that ecosystem gives me again the same time to value, right? See, customers decide to buy for three reasons, right? So either it is the value itself, or the price, or the time to value,
Sure.
right? Because that also is like some form of
Price.
cost,
Yeah.
right? So I'm really looking at like like ecosystem players, participants who I can go partner. Young guys, 10 people company, brilliant software. SG Analytics can come in with our data science and understanding of the customer's environment, implement the software. They own the IP. We provide the service. Customer is happy. They are happy. And sometimes like I don't make much money out of it. That's fine. Customer wins.
And you feel that the Indian AI ecosystem is actually doing good work?
It's brilliant.
It's brilliant.
It's brilliant.
Okay.
Yes, we don't build like foundational models, but I mean, why would we want to build that?
Okay. You see enough work happening across different pockets, at least on the application layer. You actually see a lot of work.
Absolutely, absolutely, right? Like there are some fantastic players here.
If you speak to a lot of services providers or even startups, uh, one of the key concerns is that Indian market is very, very difficult for them to crack, right? So the Indian market could easily be looked at by, let's say you need to target close to about 5,000 odd enterprises in India. Apart from that, 20, 30 odd thousand mid-sized enterprises, right? So this is the Indian market. And each customer segment has its own sets of challenges. And you would, every day on social media, you would hear a lot of hue and cry about all of these startups and companies mentioning that India is a very, very difficult market. But let me also mention, I don't think it would be an exaggeration to mention this, that SG Analytics has been able to get a crack at the Indian market, and that too in the right sense. So, what's the secret sauce, Vignesh?
See, I think in India, the conversation is important, right? Uh, like I said, it is not that India people don't pay, but India people pay for value, not for effort. Right?
Okay.
So as long as we can communicate and establish value, there is enough market.
Okay. Okay, fine. So, I think, Vignesh, we will have a fun filled rapid fire round. I'll
Sure.
ask you some questions, and we expect very quick answers. Don't
I'll
take too
try.
much time to think. So, the first one coming your way. What's the most abused buzzword in analytics and AI today?
AI.
One AI myth you would love to bust on this show.
It's simple, right? Like like AI is not a panacea for every cure, right?
Sure.
Use it for the right purpose.
Any AI or agentic AI use case you are personally very excited about?
Hyper personalization.
Name one industry that will surprise everybody in terms of uptake of agentic AI. People usually talk about all the usual suspects.
Indian manufacturing
Indian manufacturing, okay,
or
wonderful.
Chinese,
Manufacturing in general,
but mostly in Asia.
Asia, okay. Uh, Smarter in 2030, humans with AI or AI itself?
Tricky question, but AI itself.
That's fairly interesting. So, on that note, Vignesh, I think it has been a great conversation. Thank you for sharing so much information, insights with us. I'm sure the audience would love this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sandeep. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much. So, thank you so much for joining this podcast. Until next time, this is Sandeep Sharma signing off. See you in the next episode of Simulated Reality Podcast. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.